Listen, a win's a win. A win is a win. But, I mean, yikes.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well, on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. So make sure you guys do that. You get your podcasts, your videos, your shorts, your live streams, the whole ordeal. A bunch of comments from yesterday's video. Very interesting on just everybody's thoughts of how this team is going right now. And it's been exactly sort of what we expected. A hot and cold team, very streaky. What team are you going to get? Are they going to pick up some 2-1 wins? Yes. Are they going to pick up the odd game where they score 8 runs? Rarely, but yes. And that's just how the season's been going. Again, what we said needed to be done was go out there and start this series off with a win. This is the game that you most likely had the best chance to win, which is saying something because Jacob deGrom was on the mound. But they got the job done. The problem is, Carter, I guess, is it's a 2-1 game. And how many times this year is that realistically 2 runs going to get you a win? That's not a recipe for success. Really.
Yeah, it's not a recipe for success long term, but I'm not going to complain when it does get the job done against any baseball team. It's the Kevin Gausman show today. And there is, again, we're going to get into some positives from today's game, but I'm not going to complain about a win, even though the offense was absolutely non-existent, did not show up whatsoever, really, other than Daulton Varsho, who had a very good day. But let's focus on the man of the hour, the vintage Kevin Gausman start that we have gotten back-to-back weeks. Kevin Gausman had 2 complete games last year, one of them against the Texas Rangers. Does have some history of having success against the Rangers. Looking at that lineup, just having Adolis Garcia hit 8, Marcus Semien hit 9, did not think I'd be saying that after 2023 when these two were instrumental to the Texas Rangers World Series run. Obviously, being massive impacts on that World Series team. Now, just seeing them in the 8 and the 9 spot is just a very weird thing to see, especially with Marcus Semien being one of the best players on that 2021 team, being 3rd in AL MVP voting. We do know who, obviously, the top 2 were in that scenario that year, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being one of them. But yeah, like the offense, very frustrating game to watch, but I guess you can give them a little bit of leeway just because Kevin Gausman and then Jeff Hoffman coming in for the 9th inning was so good and you still end up getting the win. But you are right. If this continues to happen long term, we have seen a history of this with this baseball team where the offense seems to just not get these timely hits. But for this Texas Rangers game, just because we did win this game, I think a lot of the spotlight is going to be off of them and on to Kevin Gausman, which is rightfully so with the performance they did give us against the Texas Rangers on Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kevin Gausman should get all the praises because if it wasn't for him and the ability to close the game for Jeff Hoffman, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. And I'm over giving this offense the pass. I don't care that this is a win. This has no ability for sustained success, and it's going to bite them, and it has already this year. I'm over the it's a win, so it doesn't matter, or it's a win, so I don't really care that much because you can't look at this game and say, wow, great win, because if this was a one-off that they won 2-1, I give them the pass because okay, the pitching was fantastic. Oh, the offense stumbled a little bit. It's fine. This is a normal thing for this Toronto Blue Jays team, just to not be able to drive in runs. And so I'm thrilled with the day that Kevin Gausman had, above and beyond happy, because I think you're starting to see the splitter work. You're starting to see him, the pitch tunneling come in. You're starting to see him, again, he changed up a little bit, focusing on the grip a little bit more on that split finger pitch. And it looks like it's working. The past 2 starts, that was when he said it was right before his last start, was he said he's got to focus on his hand or his finger placement on the baseball. It obviously went out and made a difference. So great from Kevin Gausman. Great stuff. That's the Kevin Gausman we want to see. But I absolutely give no pass to this offense. I'm not happy by this win.
Again, like it does suck, like seeing the offense be bad, but this is Jacob DeGrom that this team is facing. This guy isn't no slouch, but the issue is has the worst ERA out of the next three pitchers that you're going to face. So you have Evaldi coming up, you have Melee coming up. Again, tough starting pitchers for this Toronto Blue Jays team. And again, when you look at long term and how this problem has been persisting, it's definitely unfortunate. And that's why we kind of look back at when you look at the big picture on this team. We said on the last episode that this is a 500 team the way that they have been playing because they can never get all three facets of this team firing on all cylinders. You get the starting pitching, you get the bullpen, mostly starting pitching. Jeff Hoffman does look really good, obviously, in the ninth inning. But you have your two facets absolutely firing and the offense completely non-existent. They go again 1 for 12 in this baseball game. The only hit they had with runners in score position was the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit in that ninth inning. And Michael Stefanik can't even score because Vladdy ropes that ball in the center field right at the center fielder. And unfortunately, just no chance for Stefanik to score in that inning. Again, you had runners on the fourth inning, you had runners on the fifth inning, you had runners on the sixth inning, you had in the ninth inning. Miles Straw gets a very good bunt out. You have Michael Stefanik in scoring position with one out. You have Bo up, you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. up, and again, you do get that hit with runner scoring position, but you can't score that run. Just very frustrating offensively when you're just leaving multiple guys on time and time and time again, and again, not scoring any runs whatsoever. Let's go over the runs that the Toronto Blue Jays did score. You get Daulton Varsho home run the first inning. That's awesome. Obviously, get to a start off Jacob DeGrom. Going to be tough to score runs off this guy. Obviously, we knew that going into the game, so getting to him early was nice there. But you look at the fourth inning, Alejandro Kirk sack fly. You had a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. single. Then you had a Daulton Varsho double right after that. Runners on third and second, no outs. And you score one guy. And it's on Alejandro Kirk sack fly. You're unable to get Daulton Varsho in with no outs, runner on second. So that's the frustrating stuff right there. Again, completely different narrative if you don't have Kevin Gausman having that vintage start, going 8 innings of one-run ball, only giving up that one blemish to Wyatt Langford on a home run. So there is definitely major concerns about the offense. But again, I'm not going to be entirely negative on this podcast because the Blue Jays did end up winning this game. And that is the ultimate goal of a baseball series, of a baseball game, is that you want to get the win. So while you can be critical, you can't be overly upset because Blue Jays did pull it off in this game.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm at the point now where I'm starting to look at what is this team going to do for the rest of the season. And I think more often than not, I come on here and I say the offense has been anemic. And that happened again. And you can't rely on Daulton Varsho hitting 67 home runs this year for you to win baseball games. You can't rely on this team, your pitching staff, going 8 innings, only giving up 5 hits, 1 earned run, 6 punchies. Like, you just can't rely on that. That can't be a thing that's going to happen every single game all season long. And they've been lucky that they've been getting some of those to start the year. Maybe not to that extent, but good at pitching outings to start the year. So I can't come on here at all and say, it's a win, so I'm fine with it, because I'm not. I'm looking ahead to the future. I want this team to be a playoff team, and with the way this team wins ball games, sometimes makes me believe that I don't think that this is a playoff team, and I think that the pitching can get you so far, but you need everybody to start. Again, I think Buck said on the broadcast, I've said it for about 2 months, timely hitting is massive. And this team cannot find a way to get timely hits. It does not happen. They get runners on 2 and 3, can't score anybody. They get runners on 2 with no outs, can't score anybody. Then they end up getting runners on 2 and 3 with 2 outs a couple times over the past bunch of games. And yeah, of course, then the guy who comes up with 2 outs ends up getting out, and doesn't matter anyway. You can't turn that into runs. So this is a massive offensive problem that we've had the same conversation the last 2 seasons. And Daulton Varsho is the one guy that's carrying the load right now. George Springer has slowed down. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, again, if you look again, if we are just scorecard watching, Vladdy goes 2 for 5. And you think, oh, that's not bad, but it's not getting the job done. Bo Bichette, 0 for 4. Kirk goes 1 for 2, which actually he had an okay day. But you can't rely on Daulton Varsho all the time, and you can't rely on Kevin Gausman throwing 8 innings, or this bullpen going out and throwing a shutdown game the rest of the time every time they come into the game. That's just not a recipe for success, and I'm getting frustrated watching these games because I know that tomorrow they're going to go out and they're going to score 2 runs and get beat 6-2. And it's a premonition, and that's what's on the table for this team right now. That's if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on a 6-7-2 baseball game tomorrow.
Well, just looking at the pitching matchup for tomorrow, again, it's not necessarily in the Jays' favor when you got Nathan Eovaldi, one of the best pitchers in the AL up to this point, and then you have Bowden Francis, who has struggled immensely in this season. If you're looking at that on paper and the Blue Jays end up losing that baseball game, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, obviously. Like, you're not entirely upset about that. Like, you kind of can see it coming. Like, you're not expecting Bowden Francis to go toe-to-toe with Nathan Eovaldi, and if you are expecting that, that is definitely an unfair expectation. So when you have the pitching matchups like that, it's again going to be tough to expect to win necessarily, but these are the games you're going to have to win. You're going to have to beat good pitching. If we're looking forward to a playoff series, I think that is where this offense is going to struggle immensely, because as good as Jacob deGrom is, there's going to be even better pitchers if you do make the playoffs, especially against teams in the AL. If you play the Tigers, you have Tiger Skubal, you have Jack Flaherty. If you play the Boston Red Sox, they have Garrett Crochet, some other good guys over there as well. Again, you can go down the line with these teams in the AL. The Royals have some very good pitching. So if you get to the playoffs, and that, again, is a little bit of a bigger picture for this podcast, but I think you're right with saying that this offense has been wrong and it's consistent the entire season. So it has to be, again, a cause for concern if you're talking long term. But just looking at this Jays team try to hit a team's top 2 starting pitching, we have seen time and time and time again where this team just has no pulse whatsoever. The only one that seems to really hit good pitching is Bo Bichette. But again, at that point, if you're hitting singles, is it really going to help this team that much in the long run? I'm not necessarily sure about that. You talked about George Springer kind of falling off the face of the earth. The at-bats are starting to, unfortunately, look like they did a little bit in 2024 here, just going over some George Springer stats. In the last 7 games, this guy is 2-for-18, not going to play whatsoever. 3 strikeouts, 111 average, 238 on base, 167 slugging for an OPS under 400. Over the last 30 games, he is 18 for 97. That's good for a 186 average, 331 OBP. So his walking still a little bit. Again, has been a lot worse recently. 351 slugging, not exactly what you want from George Springer anymore. I was going to bring this up on this podcast, but I just don't know what the fix is, because you don't really have anyone that can do this. Is that Bo Bichette in the leadoff spot? He has the most hits on this team right now, and it's not necessarily close. He has 61 hits. It's great that your leadoff guy is getting on base, but if you get a guy that walks, especially with the Bo Bichette approach, going up the middle a whole lot, going to right field a whole lot, instead of just having that one base approach where you have Bo Bichette obviously leading off, getting on first base, if you have somebody on for Bo Bichette, him getting all these hits all the time, you have a lot of opportunity to go first, third, to have some hit and run with Bo Bichette, to maybe manufacture runs a little bit in that sense. So Bo Bichette hitting in the 2 spot, I think, would benefit this team a ton. The whole issue is, who do you lead off? Nobody's walking enough. Nobody's playing consistent enough baseball to have somebody else lead off for this baseball team. And it could be that little bit of a jolt this offense needs to be a little bit more consistent, because you have Bo, you'd have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's on a 26-game on-base streak. So, again, he is getting on base. He isn't necessarily hitting for that power. But it's kind of the same things, the same problems we've been talking about all season. Your bullpen's pretty good. Your starting pitching, you have 3 guys that you rely on, but then the other 2 games are, again, kind of coin flips at this point. And then your offense, you don't really know what you're going to get day in and day out. You can probably bet on most of the time that you're not going to have timely hitting. You're not going to hit well with runners in scoring position. And you're not going to just do enough where you can allow your starting pitchers or bullpen arms to just pitch in stress-free games. Kevin Gausman went 8 innings here, but again, the entire time, if he makes one mistake, the game could go a completely different trajectory and could get blown wide open. So again, you're bringing up some issues that you're looking at this game necessarily may not be the worst thing, but when you look at everything in totality, the whole season, how it's come together, definitely some real and prominent issues with the offense on this team.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the Bo Bichette thing, because they talked a little bit about it on the broadcast yesterday as well. So let's take a quick break. Let's come back. I do want to touch on that, because that is a big point. Can this team be better if Bo Bichette has more ability to hit and score RBIs and get those drive-in RBIs? Would it help this team? Absolutely. I got a little bit of an opinion on that. So we're going to come back right after the break with that. I do want to talk a little bit more about George Springer, the offense, how things are going. And then I do want to look ahead to the 2 matchups, because we talked about it before, that the next 2 games don't favor the Toronto Blue Jays. And we said you needed to win game 1. We'll talk all about that when we come back.
Today's episode is sponsored by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the most reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, the free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated full line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is SH5 for 5% off your first order, and that is at supplyhouse.com.
So, Carter, going back to my point here, or your point, I guess, on Bo Bichette, and wanting him to not be in that leadoff spot, which I think is a thing that a lot of people are thinking of. Hey, give this guy more opportunity to drive and runs. I 100% agree. There is no one right now on this baseball team that can take that spot. And right now, I love having Bo Bichette there. I love having a guy that 90% of the time, can figure out ways to get on base, is going to hit the baseball, is a solid leadoff option, and this team has no one else. And then, again, you're hoping that Anthony Santander picks it up, becomes the Anthony Santander that we all want him to be, and then you have a lineup of Vladdy, Santander, and Varsho to sort of clean it up, and then you go into like a guy like Alejandro Kirk. That's not a bad lineup. But how much better would it be if you had a guy that was able, a high on base, high average guy that was able to get on in front of Bo Bichette, and you had him, Bo Bichette, Vladdy, Santander, Varsho in 5, and then Kirk in 6. This team would look a whole lot better and a whole lot more dangerous if that was the case. It's just, I look up and down here, Carter, and I don't know who that is supposed to be. I really don't. And that's a huge problem for this team, I think, is they're not, they don't have the ability to utilize their guys, in this case, Bo Bichette, to their fullest potential because you don't have the players to surround these guys with. And that was a big point of contention for us this offseason was, are these big players in Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. surrounded by enough talented pieces? And I think we're seeing that the answer is no.
Well, and the biggest issue right now is that Anthony Santander continues to be non-existent. You have Santander at your 4 spot. I can't hit him at the 4 spot right now. There's just absolutely no way with the quality of at bat that Anthony Santander is having. And there's a trickle-down effect from Santander onto some of the other players on this team. Like we talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Isn't necessarily having a bad season, has an 808 OPS, about a 279 average. But when you're talking about a team that, again, has kind of struggled to get that big hit, has struggled to hit home runs, for the most part, has been a little bit better recently, obviously, but has struggled to get runners on and hit these multi-home runs in these 3-run shots, these 2-run shots, even a grand slam from time to time. We did see a Daulton Varsho one, which was a whole lot of fun, but Anthony Santander has a trickle-down effect where right now, if he's after Vladimir Guerrero Jr., are you scared of Anthony Santander at the plate whatsoever? There was an at-bat recently where Jonathan Clase was, again, hitting in that 7th inning with runners on. They ended up using Anthony Santander in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs. But clearly right there, if Santander was available, which he was, he hit in the 9th inning, they had more confidence in that moment in Jonathan Clase with the bases loaded than they did on a guy like Anthony Santander. So you have Santander hitting behind Vladdy. What are you scared of? You pitch around Vladdy, you don't go after him because you'd much rather take your chances on Santander with the quality of at-bat this guy is having compared to a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I know Daulton Varsho is playing good baseball, but who are you really scared of more, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Daulton Varsho? I don't really think that is a conversation. So you have Santander even hitting just like on average, if you can hit a 25-30 home run pace, and a guy that can protect Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a little bit more in this lineup and they have to just force people to go after Vladimir Guerrero Jr., throw him down the middle, throw strikes against Vladdy. It's because you have someone behind him who can drive in runs. Right now, you don't really have that. So with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's just kind of taking what he's getting. He's been walking at a decent clip, and that's why he has this on-base streak of so many games, because a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. isn't necessarily receiving a ton of good pitches because you don't have to attack Vladdy. You don't want Vladdy to be the guy that's beating you when you have a bunch of other guys in this offense who have not necessarily been hitting well with runners in scoring position. So with Bo Bichette, again, with the way he's playing, isn't necessarily the caliber you need Bo Bichette to be playing either. Right now, again, he's been okay as a traditional leadoff hitter, but if you're talking Bo Bichette in a contract year who wants to get paid this season, maybe over $200 million, if you're getting a low 700 OPS from this guy for a guy that's playing at best average defense, again, not exactly getting what you need so far from your big dogs. And that has been a storyline from the entire season. It started in this slow starting notion. So, eventually they'll pick it up. Eventually they'll pick it up. Now it's at the end of May. We haven't really seen the best potential from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but honestly, for me, I'm putting more of the spotlight on guys like Bo Bichette, especially really a guy like Anthony Santander. We're not really helping Vladimir Guerrero Jr. out whatsoever and not allowing pitchers to actually pitch to them and allowing pitchers to just kind of go around Vlad because you're not really scared of anyone else in this lineup right now.
Well, and just going back to your Anthony Santander point about teams not being afraid of him, that goes back to the walk-off Ernie Clement hits, right? That wins the Blue Jays a baseball game because they decide to walk Anthony Santander and they want Ernie Clement instead. And people that have watched the Blue Jays all season knew that, hey, probably not your best choice. If you're
Ernie at the point was hitting like 300.
It was
so
ridiculous.
He was having a very good streak.
Yeah, and they decide to pitch around 189 hitting Anthony Santander to pitch to notorious single guy Ernie Clement. And that's a problem when us as Blue Jays fans are happier watching Ernie Clement take that at bat than we are Anthony Santander. That is a major problem for this team. And I was a big advocate for Anthony Santander this offseason, and it's not working out right now. It really isn't. But you know what? I go back and look at this offseason, and it comes down to points that you get the guys you can get, and you need them to play up to their potential. And right now, you're right. None of our three big dogs are playing up to their potential. And Anthony Santander by far being the worst of them. Daulton Varsho is giving you more than we all probably expected. Alejandro Kirk is giving us probably more than we expected. You're getting great stuff from guys like Addison Barger and these guys in lower leverage, but you can't rely on those guys day in and day out. You need your players that you're paying millions and millions of dollars to play well. And I don't know, man. I'm just getting frustrated because even with a win, it's almost like the podcasting critical eye of me is like, oh, this is going to turn around on us the next day. I don't even care who it was on the mound tomorrow. If it was, I don't know, whoever it was, just say it's two random guys on the mound tomorrow. I'm still saying the Blue Jays aren't scoring more than 2 runs because that's what they have been doing all season long. Is they go and they get a 2-1 win, and we all think, oh, well, they got the win. That's great. But then they score 2 runs the next day and give up 6. And then we're back in the same spot. You can't get too high. You can't get too low on this team because you don't know what they're going to give you on a day-to-day basis.
Well, again, we've just seen the same inconsistency problems for the last, not even this season. It's been like the last 3 seasons where you haven't really seen this Blue Jays team put a good streak together. And when you look at just the bottom of this order, you look at what like Miles Straw's done, Nathan Lucas, Addison Barger bring up, Ernie Clement, like you can go down the list, Tyler Heineman. These guys have been producing. Alejandro Kirk's been better than expected recently. Dalton Varsho's been on fire. If you're getting all this production from guys and you had your regular Bo, you had your regular Vladimir Santander, I think this team's floor would be a whole lot better right now. I don't think you could really complain about your role players and how they've been performing and how they've been supplementing this team up to this point because they have come up in big scenarios. Nathan Lucas is walking off baseball games. You brought up Ernie Clement walking off baseball games, having multi-hit performances. Addison Barger got his OPS again around 700 now when he started the season horribly. So he's been having very good at-bats. So it's not necessarily the role player's fault right now. It's just the guy you're paying $500 million, the guy you're paying $92.5 million. And back to the Santander point, this wasn't my first choice in free agency, but who would have expected Anthony Santander to hit this poorly? Like, I'm never a guy that wants to buy young guys that just had career years, but you cannot expect Anthony Santander to just fall off the face of the earth and just forget how to swing a baseball bat, no matter how good he was last season. This guy is a guy that we said floor should be around 30 home runs, at absolute worst 25. But I know you were hoping for about 35 home runs from Anthony Santander this year. That's not going to happen unless he goes on the greatest Botember streak of all time and does that maybe in June and July. We can see some production from Anthony Santander. But so far, again, it's been very early on. I'm not going to say that whole contract is a swing and a miss, but up to this point, that has not been a very good signing for the Toronto Blue Jays. But before we do kind of preview this second game of the series, I want to go into the pitching, give them a little bit of props, obviously, because we have been kind of harsh on the hitting, which is definitely fair. But we do have to give some flowers from the guys on the mound today. Only 2 of them took the mound, but when you have Kevin Gausman go 8 innings, that is something that you're definitely going to take. Vintage Kevin Gausman stuff, and we have seen that in back-to-back starts. As soon as I called out Kevin Gausman, we started to see this guy pick it up once again and just have disgusting stuff. And what was nice to see is the splitter working in this matchup. Had 45 splitters thrown in this game, produced 11 whiffs on the splitter. Just looked like vintage Kevin Gausman. There was one at bat, he threw 5 straight splitters, got a swing in the dirt. Just when that pitch is on, Kevin Gausman can be so good. And that's what I was hoping to see. A guy that you knew kind of had it in him, knew he could still be very good, but we really hadn't seen it up to that point. Kevin Gausman in these last 2 starts has had some major bounce back starts, and especially with this team not having a ton of off days coming up, getting 8 innings from a guy like this, and again, a tough stretch when you have 2 tough pitching matchups coming up in the next 2 days, giving that bullpen some rest, especially when you have some injuries that I do want to go into as well, and some injury updates. Definitely just a huge start from Kevin Gausman against the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely massive. And I know that there's the one day where we went on the pod and you said this team doesn't necessarily have an ace right now. And I tried to back Kevin Gausman. I couldn't with the statistics wise, but he's a guy that I said he's a veteran in this league who I had the feeling eventually would be able to figure it out, would make the adjustments necessary to get back to prime Kevin Gausman stuff. And so far, he's done that. Now, can he fall off the face of the earth again? Maybe, but I have way more faith in a guy like Kevin Gausman to work through his stuff and figure out what needs to be done, what's working well, what isn't, and how to fix it. So, yeah, huge hat tips to him. What a great day. Bounce back from Jeff Hoffman as well. I got to give him a hat tip because we have been very hard on him as well. Maybe not as hard as some of the other people on Twitter have been. Because we know that he has great stuff and he can be very good. He had a couple blow ups. Hopefully that is a thing of the past and Jeff Hoffman can continue to move forward. But Carter, we do have another 2 games to preview because I want to talk about the pitching matchups, how this can look for the Toronto Blue Jays team trying to win this series, plus injury updates and some updates at some players as well. So we'll come back with all of that right after this break. So, Carter, I'll throw it over to you. Why don't you get into the injury updates before we really get into previewing the next 2 games here? Again, we went over some of them yesterday, just how some guys looked. But what do you got for us today?
Yeah, I got a bunch of people making rehab assignments and making rehab starts. So that's a good thing for the Toronto Blue Jays team, especially with Yimi Garcia being placed on the 15-day IL. A lot of these guys are bullpen guys. So Nick Sandlin with the lat injuries, all from Arden Zwelling, is throwing a bullpen at the Blue Jays Florida complex on Monday. So again, this already did happen. Erik Swanson will throw a rehab outing in AAA Buffalo on Tuesday. So again, Erik Swanson getting pretty close to coming back to this Blue Jays team. Probably going to throw at least 1 more rehab assignment. Maybe we'll do 2. Again, expect Erik Swanson hopefully at some point at the start of next week. Ryan Burr was supposed to be a little bit ahead of Erik Swanson, but unfortunately experienced some shoulder soreness after his rehab outing with the Buffalo Bisons on Sunday. So he had to get sent back to Toronto to get reevaluated by Blue Jay staff. So again, a little bit unfortunate seeing a Ryan Burr setback, especially with some of the injuries that you have had. Andrus quad is in Florida, continuing to increase his baseball activity. The Jays are hoping to get him in a rehab game in Dunedin on Wednesday. So some reinforcements coming back for the Toronto Blue Jays with Andrus Gimenez in particular. I don't know if this is necessarily a good or bad thing. The way this guy's bat has been kind of just a little bit of a clog in the lineup. A guy that you're getting, if he's healthy, you kind of have to play with how good he is defensively. But with the way Ernie Clement's been playing, you've seen Aston Barger obviously getting reps at third base. You don't really want that to change. So some guys will take a hit, unfortunately, with their playing time with Andrus Gimenez coming back. But if he could just be productive, I think that does solve, obviously, a lot of your problems. But I'll just throw it kind of back over to you. So just instant reactions to those injury updates. And then obviously to get into the second game of the series.
Yeah, you need guys coming back. You do. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the Andrus Gimenez of it all. I don't want to see guys like Ernie Clement and Addison Barger lose playing time to a guy that may go out there and hit 190. I really don't love it. Yes, you want his defense, but again, I don't know. Ernie Clement's been solid at second. Yeah, Barger's not the best defender of all time, but I think you're okay suffering that a little bit when his bat is going because he is electric when he gets that thing rolling. So, yeah, interested to see what all the moves will be made, who will play where. That's one of the biggest things I'm going to be looking forward to is seeing how this team handles all the returns of these players.
Yeah, and the bullpen getting more reinforcements, definitely a good thing, but not necessarily where you need the reinforcements. Would be nice again. You do have some guys taking steps, obviously, like we went over. Asking Varsho, Nathan Lucas has been very good. Miles Straw's been productive. Tyler Hyde, what he has played, has been good as well. But it would be nice if you had one more guy necessarily coming back, trying to take a step for this offense. That has lacked that timely hitting it seems like every single game this year has happened a few times. But again, consistently inconsistent is the theme of this Toronto Blue Jays team, unfortunately, here in 2025. But always nice to have pitchers. You can never have too many pitchers. Again, things can change in a blink of an eye in the MLB. So obviously nice to have some reinforcements there. But again, it's going to be the storyline of the season. It's going to be something that we continue to talk about because we've talked about it since the first game of the season all the way up to game 53. That just did happen for this Toronto Blue Jays team. Need the offense, need someone to remain consistent, and this really does all stem from your big three. As soon as Anthony Santander, if it ever happens, can return and just play some competitive baseball, have some quality at-bats, I think that can completely change the dynamic of this team. But until then, if you have Bichette playing the way he is, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. again getting on base, but with Anthony Santander not hitting home runs, it's even more pressure on Vladdy to hit home runs. And with Anthony Santander swinging a pool noodle at the plate, something's got to change. It's all going to start with one of those three.
Yeah, and Carter, look at the next two games again. Bowden Francis, Nathan Eovaldi, and then Erik Lauer versus Melee as well. So it's not looking good for this team. Like I said, winning game one would be massive, and it gives you an opportunity to win this series. But I'm looking at these next two games, and I hate to say it, but I think the best opportunity for this team to get a second win in this series is the Erik Lauer start, which I hate to say because I want Bowden Francis to do well. I just have not a whole lot of faith of him going 3 times through the order. I think you maybe have to cap this guy now with the bullpen relief that you were given from Kevin Gausman. Now maybe you cap him at 2 times through the order and you go to a guy like Yariel Rodriguez out of the pen or Jose Urena, depending on where the game's at so far.
Yeah, I don't think you let Jose Rios. I don't think you let Bowden Francis go again, like you said, 3 times throughout the order. Again, we'll have to kind of play it by ear, see how this guy is throwing. But if Bowden Francis goes 4 innings of 2 earned runs, I don't think people are going to necessarily be mad at that. I'll even take 4. Actually, I don't know if I want to say this because are the Blue Jays going to score 3 runs? 4 innings, 3 earned runs. Again, that's not necessarily bad for the way things have been going for Bowden Francis. But then you need the offense to obviously show up there as well. So I think Yariel Rodriguez, the way things have been going, I don't think he'd be the guy that goes after Bowden Francis. Really depends how deep he goes into this game. Like you said, this team does have some bullpen relief right now. They haven't really been taxed whatsoever. Jeff Hoffman, I think, should still be available if you really need him in this game as well. So I think it would be a Jose Urena kind of start here. Maybe get some Chad Green, maybe get some Mason Fluharty. It really depends how far Bowden Francis goes into this game. But I think 4 to 5 innings is what John Schneider will be looking for against the Texas Rangers lineup that isn't necessarily a huge threat offensively. You're looking more so at their starting pitching and then how good they actually have been defensively. So a little bit of, again, the traditional Toronto Blue Jays thing that we have been accustomed to seeing over these last 2.5 years. But yeah, we'll see how this pitching matchup does play out. Nathan Eovaldi's been very good this season. So again, it's going to be tough to expect the Toronto Blue Jays to score a ton of runs in this game. And the way Bowden Francis has been playing, you got to expect a few home run balls in this game. So we'll see. Maybe we will be pleasantly surprised by the Toronto Blue Jays offense being, again, consistently inconsistent this entire season. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, all the support recently has been much appreciated. Thank you for staying with us during this absolute roller coaster of this season. Again, the highs are very high with this team, but the lows seem to be even lower with this baseball team. We have noticed that about 75% of you guys are not subscribed. We are coming back to get the shorts, the live streams, the podcast, whatever we post on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, Twitter. Helps us out a ton. Also keeps our content at the top of your page. But Braden, anything else to add? And just maybe giving the Blue Jays fans a little bit of encouragement going into the next 2 games of this Ranger series?
Listen, you like you said, you can't... Right now, it seems like every game is watchable for the Toronto Blue Jays because you don't know what they're going to bring on a day-to-day basis. So take that with you. Who knows what we're going to get tomorrow? We might score 1 billion runs. Maybe not, but maybe. There you go. There's your positive note. All right, everybody. Have fun. Enjoy the next 2 games. Hopefully the Blue Jays can clean up this series, get the series win. Maybe get back to 500. Because that wouldn't be a crazy thing to ask either. This team, I feel like, is going to be bouncing all around the 500 mark for the rest of the season. So there you go. Have a good one, everybody. We'll be back with you tomorrow.